What's happening, everyone? My name is Alex and welcome back. So when it comes to robot vacuums, of course, vacuuming and mopping performance are very important because you obviously want your floors nice and clean. But when it comes to robot vacuums, there is another thing that's also quite important, and that is the navigation and obstacle avoidance, because it happens so often. You're not at home, you start a cleaning cycle, and then the vacuum gets stuck on something in the house and it's not gonna be able to clean your house. You get home and then you kind of have to clean the floor, start another cleaning cycle, and so on. So this happens quite a lot. Now, I've tried many robot vacuums from many brands. I probably tried like 60 robot vacuums so far. So I find that some of the best brands for navigation and obstacle avoidance are Dreame, Narwal, Roborock, and Eufy. Now, out of those four, the top two are Dreame and Narwal. These ones are the best for navigation and obstacle avoidance. So in today's video, we're gonna find out which one has the best obstacle avoidance. So from Narwal, I have the Narwal Freo Z Ultra, and from Dreame, I have the Dreame X40 Ultra Complete. The names are a bit hard to remember, but basically these are kind of like the top offerings from these brands, and they're also fairly similarly priced. So in today's video, we're gonna find out which one out of these two robot vacuums does the best for obstacle avoidance. If you look closer at both of these robots, you're gonna notice that both of them have the LiDAR navigation at the top here. So they basically use that to map out your house. But then on the front here, they have a variety of sensors. So on the Dreame here, the manufacturer calls that AI action. So it's basically using these sensors and cameras on the front to kind of avoid obstacles and figure out what's in front of it. And on the Narwal vac here, this is called the Twin AI Dodge. So the same idea, it's using cameras, sensors to kind of identify what's around the vacuum. And if you actually open the app, you can even see what the vacuum kind of sees throughout your house. So most robot vacuums just see shapes, but Z Ultra's twin RGB cameras scan objects in full color and depth, basically like human eyes, so the way you and I see. That's also paired with dual AI chips, and it processes data 2 times faster to make millimeter precise calls. That's why it gets so close to those objects, as you're gonna see later on in this video. So this is a game changer for chaotic homes. So no more cable strangling disasters or knocked over Legos after the kids left everything in their way. So this kind of obstacle avoidance system is better than most other ones available on the market because it processes data more like a human. Okay, so to figure out which one does better at avoiding obstacles throughout the cleaning cycle, I've basically set up 2 obstacle courses, let's call them, on 2 different floors. Now, the tests are kind of longer, about 10 minutes each for one of the tests and about 3.5 minutes for the other one. So I think I'm just gonna fast forward so you can actually see that happening like faster, because I don't wanna make the video like 45 minutes long. So basically on the first set where I've set up an obstacle course, I basically had some cables, I had some smaller things on the floor. So basically anything that a vacuum could find in a regular home, let's say. I mean, sure, there could be toys, but I don't actually have any toys, but you get the idea. So first let's play that one, and then I'll be back before we play the second set. Okay, so I had the same obstacle course set up for both vacuums, but of course their base stations were in different parts of the room. So one had to start from the top, one had to start from the bottom. On the left you are seeing the Narwal vac, and on the right you are seeing the Dreame vac. I couldn't put the videos on top of each other because you couldn't really see what was happening. Basically, the Narwal vac does go through the obstacle course much faster. For example, in this situation, it almost got stuck in between that shoe and the scissors. But as you can see, it gets really, really close to those objects. It did touch those objects a couple of times. You can also see that in some situations, it turns off one of those brushes so it doesn't catch on those objects. And if we look on the Dreame on the right hand side, you can see that it hasn't gotten that far in our obstacle course, mostly because it seems to be a bit more afraid to get closer to those objects. Afraid, well, you know what I mean. So it does take much longer for the Dreame vac to get into the same spot as our Narwhal. Later on, you're also gonna see that the Dreame vac does go over that those scissors that are on the floor, and eventually it gets stuck, something that hasn't happened with the Narwhal. I've also had some crackers on the floor. They're pretty small and they kind of have the same color as the floor, so very hard to see those crackers. But the Narwhal vac also picked up more of those crackers than the Dreame vac. So I think somewhere around here the Dreame vac will get stuck on those scissors. So for the Narwhal vac, it took about 8.5 minutes to do this obstacle course, and it did actually clean a lot more from that part than, see, now the Dreame vac caught the scissors. So that's the situation here. Okay, so as you've seen for yourself, for that particular test, the Narwal Freo Z Ultra here did way better. So not only this one was faster at cleaning that area, but it actually cleaned more of the area, even with all those obstacles around it, compared to the Dreame. So the Dreame does seem to be a bit more afraid of what's around it. It doesn't want to get that close to those objects. Now, it also got stuck on that scissors later on in that video. So if this would have been vacuuming all by itself and that scenario would have happened, this one would have basically been stuck and not finished the cleaning cycle, where the Narwal Freo Z Ultra here would have actually finished that cleaning job. So for that scenario, the Narwhal definitely did better and also did the test faster. So I believe that took about 8 minutes, and for this one it took about 11 minutes, but didn't actually finish the cleaning. It was just moving around, so I just had to stop recording. Okay, next I've changed the location, so another room, another set with obstacles, but for this one I've used a whiter flooring, just so you can see how the devices do if the floor is white. So again, I'm gonna play those. I'll have the Narwhal at the top, I'll have the Dreame at the bottom. We'll play those, and then I'll be back right after that test. So let's play that. Okay, so we have our next test. For this test, the obstacle course is definitely not as busy as the other one. So here you can see both vacuums coming the same way in the room, but then you can notice that the Dreame is afraid to touch those obstacles on the floor, so it never actually goes down to the lower part of the frame. So it only cleans the top part of the frame because of those obstacles that are kind of in the way. At the same time, the Narwhal vac did get all the way down. It does get very close to those objects. So of course the Narwhal vac will not miss any spots whenever doing a cleaning session, even if there are lots of obstacles on the floor. So once again, the Dreame vac lost this round. For this test, the Dreame didn't get stuck on anything on the floor, but if you've also noticed, it didn't actually clean the whole area because the way those obstacles are all over the floor, it didn't allow it to go close enough to those areas that I actually wanted cleaned. So even though it didn't get stuck on anything, it didn't actually clean the area that well. It only cleaned a small section. And it also took kind of long, considering that it only cleaned a small section, where the Narwhal did go around all those objects and did clean up the area much better, because it does get closer to those objects. You've also noticed that sometimes when it's close enough to an object, it will stop one of the brushes, so it doesn't actually touch whatever object there is. So the Narwhal here does do much better for obstacle avoidance. So even though these two vacuums have very similar cleaning performance for mopping, for vacuuming, they're both very good vacuums at that. But if I would have to consider a vacuum based on the obstacle avoidance and navigation, I feel the Narwhal is way better. And at the moment, this is probably the best vacuum there is for obstacle avoidance. I don't think I've tried any other vacuum that does as good as this, going around your house and not getting stuck on something. So if you're wondering which robot vacuum is the best for obstacle avoidance, the Narwal Freo Z Ultra here seems to be the one. Now, if you do have any other suggestions for other robots out there, but definitely leave a comment down below, and if I can get that robot in, I can probably redo this test once again. But for now, I feel that this particular Narwal robot does the best for navigation and obstacle avoidance. Yeah, so just in case you're wondering which vacuum does best for this. Alright guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.